Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Harriet Wallace. Police continue to investigate the deadly mass shooting at a Buffalo grocery store that left 10 people dead. The suspect is in custody. 18-year-old Peyton Gendron was arrested and charged with first-degree murder Saturday. Gendron is from the Broome County town of Conklin, and authorities say they are now investigating that shooting as a hate crime. Police say, though, this is not the first time the suspect has been connected with something like this. He threatened to carry out a shooting at his high school in 2021. Following that threat, he was taken into custody and sent to a hospital for a mental health evaluation. He's currently being held in protective custody in Erie County. Alexis McAdams joins us with the very latest details in this tragedy.
It was a horrifying scene. I've never heard gunshots like that loud.
A mass shooting rocking this predominantly black neighborhood in Buffalo. A gunman opening fire at a Tops grocery store on Saturday, killing 10 people and wounding 3 others. Buffalo's police commissioner says the shooter had plans to continue that rampage if he hadn't been stopped.
It appeared that his plans were to drive out of here and then continue driving down Jefferson Avenue, looking to shoot more black people, as he put it.
Investigators say this was a hate crime. Of the 13 people shot, 11 were black. We're learning more about the victims, including retired Buffalo police officer Aaron Salter. He was working security at that grocery store and was killed trying to stop the teen gunman.
He looked after the store. He did a good job.
Police arrested 18-year-old Peyton Gendron in connection with the shooting. He was charged with first-degree murder and other charges are pending. The FBI now investigating the violence as a potential federal hate crime or act of domestic terrorism. This mass shooting just one of several that occurred over the weekend. On Sunday in Southern California, a man opened fire during a church lunch reception, killing at least one person and wounding several others. The gunman stopped after a pastor hit him on the head with a chair, and other church members hogtied him with electrical cords. Tomorrow, President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden will be here in Buffalo talking to community members. Reporting in Buffalo, New York, I'm Alexis McAdams, Fox News.
Governor Kathy Hochul spoke at Buffalo's True Bethel Baptist Church Sunday morning and addressed the attack. The governor's remarks called on social media companies to crack down on hate speech after the shooter posted his agenda online prior to that shooting.
And there'll be others who witness what happened in my beloved community and say, oh, that's how you do it. That's the manifesto. That's how you attack peaceful, God-loving people. You strike them in a busy Saturday afternoon in a place called Buffalo because that was a zip code of a large African-American population. It's all in the manifesto. So this was not a random act of violence. This is a whole new dimension where you've attacked people because of the color of the skin, because you are a coward. And I want to silence those voices now.
It was a weekend of coast-to-coast protest as the Supreme Court weighs its much-anticipated final abortion decision. One justice spoke out about the pending ruling and the leak that sparked outrage with activists nationwide. Carolyn Shively reports from Washington.
Abortion rights protesters mobilized in hundreds of cities across the U.S. over the weekend, promising a fight if the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade, the decision that legalized abortion in the U.S. nearly 50 years ago.
And it is day one of a summer of rage where we will be ungovernable.
The demonstrations have been growing since a leaked draft opinion indicated the court would indeed overturn Roe. It's the first leak in the history of the Supreme Court, and it sparked more protests outside the homes of conservative justices. According to Justice Clarence Thomas, it's an unthinkable breach of trust.
You begin to look over your shoulder. It's like kind of an infidelity that you can explain it, but you can't undo it.
A federal decision tossing out Roe would leave abortion regulation up to individual states.
I represent 4 million Oklahomans. I don't know how much clearer we can be. We believe life begins at conception, and we're going to protect life in Oklahoma.
What we did here is we preserved essentially the Roe versus Wade protection in Colorado, because fundamentally, Shannon, what we believe is this is not about the government making that decision. It's about women making that decision.
A bill backed by Democrats that would guarantee abortion rights nationwide failed in the Senate last week, but both sides have vowed to fight on. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox News.
McDonald's is selling its Russian business. It's looking for a buyer that will keep its 62,000 workers. McDonald's expects to charge somewhere between $1.2 to $1.4 billion to write off the businesses. All of its restaurants in Ukraine remain closed amid the war, but they are still paying employees there. The Biden administration presses a major baby formula maker on assurances to provide it for key income groups. Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack has written Abbott Laboratories, that's a key provider of baby formula throughout the country, expressing concerns over the shortages, asking more to be done to ensure that lower income Americans can access baby formulas. Abbott helps supply the government's WIC, which is the Women, Infants, and Children Federal Assistance Program. Abbott was hit by product recalls earlier this year, causing a chain reaction in national supply, and is giving rebates on alternative products. With rising energy costs, Americans should expect a shock for their summer electric bills. Madison Allworth has more on how much more New Yorkers could be paying this summer.
Americans should expect higher energy costs this summer. Con Ed telling Fox Business that residents in New York City will pay on average 11 to 12% more this summer compared to last year. This all coming at a time when increased prices are being seen across the board. Con Edison says that for a typical New York City resident that uses 350 kilowatt hours per month of energy, they can expect their monthly bill to go from roughly $104 to $115 per month. But in Westchester, where usage is closer to 500 kilowatt hours, they should expect a 15.6% increase in cost from roughly $133 to $153 per month. And this is all after a winter of increased energy costs as well. It's not just in New York. Pennsylvania regulators warned earlier this month that customers could see increases of 6 to 45% starting June 1st. Eversource, which serves New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Connecticut, said customers could see an increase of 23 to 25% through at least June, and people in South Carolina are seeing jumps of 5 to 19%. Energy supply costs are at their highest levels since 2014, and the elevated cost of gas is not helping. But experts say it's not just the volatility. Policy changes are compounding the problem, particularly in places like the Empire State.
The previous governor should be held to account. He's promised wind, solar, etc. So as those things struggle to come online, we have a supply problem. We have an electricity production supply problem, and the result will be high prices.
And it's not just individuals that have to manage these higher costs. Business owners do as well. Here in New York City, Con Edison says that the average business owner is going to have to spend $300 more per month in energy compared to last year. In New York City, I'm Madison Allworth, Fox Business.
Your complete work week forecast next, plus a look at how inflation is impacting food banks across the country. Stay with us.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Well, that strong line of storms is now pushing its way out of the area. A low pressure system will continue to dominate much of the northeast, but our area could trend to stay a bit drier into your Tuesday, but still going to feel the effects of the wind as well as seeing some cooler conditions. Overall, waking up tomorrow morning, you are looking at your lows to fall into those lower 50s and upper 40s, even Corning at about 49, Wayland at about 48, Binghamton about 49, with Elmira holding on to about 50 degrees. So just about seeing the conditions on average, but it's just going to feel much much cooler, especially with that northwesterly wind that's going to be dominating the area, as well as some passing cloud cover that maybe could shake out a few showers, but we are looking at that main threat for some showers to be off to the east of the area. Overall, we'll see sunshine return on Wednesday. Now, there may be a few showers possible into Thursday morning. It's a weak system. We'll have to see how that formulates here as we step into the next few days, but overall, we are going to look at warmer temperatures to return to the region, as we will stay slightly below average both Tuesday and Wednesday before the 80s could be back on board on Friday, but that is going to build the instability across much of the Northeast again and cause for some storms on Friday as well as into Saturday. Overall, rolling through forecasts, it looks fairly quiet overall, especially for the Elmira and Corning area. You see maybe a few green little specks there pop up on reflectivity, but more the threat is going to be off into the North Country as we head through the state of New York across Lake Ontario. And then you're starting to see here just Wednesday, there's a little bit of increase in cloud cover. That will be the system we'll be watching for Wednesday night into Thursday to maybe bring some showers, but overall, high pressure system will try to give us some more sunshine on Wednesday. As for the winds that are going to be in place on Tuesday, it's going to be breezy. Winds anywhere from 25 up to about 45 miles per hour possible. Elmira and Corning looking just around that 25 to 30 mile per hour point there. So that's going to bring the feeler cool with temperatures holding on just around those 50s and 60s across the region, from 57 into Wayland to about those lower 60s from Elmira and Corning, showing some of that sunshine, but again, a few stray showers can't be ruled out as we stay about 10 degrees below average. We'll start to edge closer to average on Wednesday, but Wednesday morning is going to be the coldest. This is where maybe even some frosty conditions across the state could be possible, especially towards those Finger Lake regions, with average lows for this time of the year about 45 degrees. But looking at that average for a high temperature, it is about 72, and we'll hold on to about 68 even underneath that sunshine, as we'll still have that slight northwesterly wind in place. It is going to keep much of the area into those 60s, but with some sunshine, that's still some outdoor weather, so not too bad. But overall, as we continue into that forecast, as mentioned, maybe into Thursday.
The high cost of food continues causing stress for countless Americans, especially those relying on necessities from food banks to survive. But now, the same inflation impacting families across the country is also making it more challenging for food pantries to help those in need. Rob Dawson has a look at this escalating problem.
Food banks have always offered a lifeline for those struggling to eat, with more than 38 million Americans, including 12 million kids, impacted by food insecurity, according to the USDA.
If it wasn't for this food pantry, I would be in sad shape.
But surging prices for food and gas is now causing more people to need assistance.
I've never used the food banks before. I didn't have to. I felt, I leave it for people that needed it more, but now I really almost have to come.
The Labor Department reported inflation reached 8.3% last month, and while that's less than the 8.5% seen in March, the numbers are still hovering around a 40-year high, something the nation's food banks aren't immune to, as many struggle to feed larger crowds on tighter budgets. This comes as officials at Feeding America, the largest food assistance program in the country, say they're also experiencing a shortage of donated goods.
Decrease in government-supplied commodities at a time when we need it the most, and decrease in retail and manufacturing donations too.
Meaning many food banks have less to give.
We try to provide 3 to 5 days worth of food for each person that's in the household. Right now, we're 1 to 2, sometimes 3 days less than what we're able to give people.
Meantime, the uncertain economy is causing Americans' consumer confidence to reach an 11-year low. The University of Michigan reporting its consumer sentiment index plummeted by more than 6% this month alone.
Political leaders in the world's second largest wheat producer are trying to stabilize wheat prices. India banned wheat exports on Saturday, only days after the country announced it had been racking up record wheat exports. Buyers from around the world had been planning to buy more of the grain from India after wheat exports from the Black Sea region plummeted when Russia invaded Ukraine. But an intense heat wave has been limiting wheat production, and prices have been spiking, especially with the stepped-up demand since the war began. Wheat prices in India have now hit a record high. The national average for gas prices in the U.S. has hit another record high. According to AAA, the average price for a gallon of gas is at $4.47. Diesel also broke a record at $5.56. Some states like California and Hawaii are way above average for unleaded gas, with prices at the pump in some areas reaching, get this, nearly $6. Experts say prices will likely keep rising. High gas prices getting under your hood. Some simple tips may help your mood and cost. Patrick Dehan at Gas Buddy says, remember the following. Keep your foot light when accelerating. Don't rev your engine so fast, and watch that tachometer. If your check engine light is on, pay attention and get servicing. You could be wasting fuel. Remove excess weight from your car and roof racks and use less AC in hot weather. Crack open some windows instead. Doctors suggest gardening to help prevent osteoporosis. According to neurosurgeon Deborah Benzel from Cleveland Clinic, gardening daily might be a good way to halt osteoporosis. The bone condition debilitates the bones and increases the risk of fractures and ruptures. Benzel says studies show gardening can also improve your immune system and help prevent dementia. However, she recommends starting to implement it in your routine slowly and says it is beneficial for people of all ages. A SWAT officer in Atlanta saved a 4-month-old infant's life on Friday, and it was all caught on video. Courtney Bryant has more.
He's not responding. This is what Atlanta police officer Robert Oden saw Friday afternoon while patrolling in the area of 285 and MLK Drive.
Cars driving by, honking their horns, had their hazards on. So, I was just kind of curious what was going on. So I just kind of followed them a little bit.
Officer Oden followed the cars into a fire station, and that's where the child's mother ran towards him with her baby, 4-month-old Pierre.
She looked at me and she started screaming, the baby wasn't breathing.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Pierre. Officer Oden immediately started CPR.
Knelt down on the ground, had my hand out behind his head, and just started doing compressions. Gave him a breath, did more compressions, checked his pulse.
Even though he had never done CPR on a baby before, Officer Oden says he remembered his training.
The breathing is important, but the compressions were the biggest thing. So I just knew just to keep going.
For about 60 seconds, Officer Oden continued to work on little Pierre until Grady EMS arrived. Once in the ambulance, the baby began to breathe again.
Just happened to be in the area and to be in the right place at the right time, and just able to help them out. And I'm glad I was able to do what I could.
JetBlue Airways will launch a hostile takeover offer for Spirit Airlines. The Wall Street Journal says JetBlue will offer $30 cash per share. It previously offered $33 a share, though that deal was rejected by the company. Spirit already has an agreement to merge with Frontier. The Journal says JetBlue plans to urge Spirit shareholders to vote against the Frontier merger. Walmart is facing a likely shortage of store managers, despite the fact the position can pay up to $200,000 a year. One HR executive telling the Wall Street Journal the talent pool needed to groom managers for the future is not what it needs to be. The retailer creating a program to recruit and train college graduates to eventually take over their stores. Starting salary is $65,000. They hope to bring in 1,000 applicants by the end of the summer. An autonomous self-driving truck company moves closer to help ending supply chain truck driver problems. Embark Trucks, a company which has technology powering self-driving semi-trucks, has successfully completed initial winter conditions tests and now has a partnership with carrier U.S. Express. The developments could help free up freight driving with less long-haul drivers. Embark says drivers can operate trucks in cities and go driverless in between cities, helping to reduce federal hours of service allowed behind the wheel. Embark says drivers could more than double their utilization of driving. And we want to leave you, as always, with a smile. Doctors suggest spending time in nature to boost your health. Previous studies show spending at minimum of 2 hours outside a week has several health benefits. According to Dr. Nushin Razani from the University of California, patients who spend time in open air have seen positive effects in their health. Doctors across the U.S. are prescribing patients to spend time outdoors to treat conditions like anxiety, depression, and high blood pressure. Razani suggests walking or spending time with others outside as possible options. And that'll do it for us right now. Thank you for joining us.